Some urban legends feel like nightmares pulled from the deepest corners of our imagination. But what happens when those nightmares step onto the street, under the flicker of a real street lamp? Tonight we dive into one of the most disturbing modern legends of America, the Smiling Man, a figure who doesn't speak, doesn't blink. He only smiles, and if you meet him, you'll never forget that smile. The story begins with an ordinary man walking home late at night. It was around 2 a.m. on a quiet suburban street. The world felt empty until he noticed a figure standing under a street light in the distance. The man wore a neat suit, as though dressed for a party, but he stood perfectly still, facing the narrator. And then he smiled, not the smile of a friendly stranger, but something stretched, too wide, too deliberate, the kind of smile that chills your blood instantly. The narrator froze. He felt watched, even though the figure made no move, until it began to move. Slowly, deliberately, still smiling. The smiling man didn't walk like a normal person. He began to dance. His steps were exaggerated, cartoonish, as though his limbs were made of rubber. He spun in slow circles, arms waving, head tilting unnaturally. The narrator stood in shock, unable to look away. This was no drunken stumble, no harmless eccentric. Every step seemed designed to unsettle. Every twist of the body was a performance of madness. And still, the grin never faded. That impossible smile stretched wider than humanly natural, glowing in the cold street light. Fear finally overtook curiosity. The narrator turned and began to walk quickly down the street. But when he glanced back, the smiling man had followed. Not running, not shouting, just walking with that grin. His steps echoed in the silence, each one louder than it should have been. The narrator's pace quickened into a jog, and then into a run, but no matter how fast he moved, the smiling man was there. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther, but always smiling. Always following. Until finally, when the narrator reached a crossroad, he turned once more. And the smiling man was gone, vanished as if he had never been there, but the memory of that smile would never leave him. What or who is the smiling man? Some believe he is a spirit, a phantom born from fear itself. Others claim he is nothing more than a predator, a disturbed individual who finds joy in stalking strangers at night. But there are those who whisper of something darker, that the smiling man is not human at all, that his impossible grin and distorted dance belong to something alien, something that slips into our world just long enough to remind us how fragile our sanity truly is. Why does the smiling man terrify us so deeply? Because he turns something innocent, a smile, into something monstrous. Because he is unpredictable, silent one moment, dancing the next. And because he reflects the truth we all fear, that danger doesn't always scream. Sometimes it only smiles. To this day, people across the United States report sightings of grinning strangers in the night. Are they copycats, hallucinations, or is the smiling man still out there, wandering the streets, waiting for his next audience? Perhaps the most unsettling thing about the smiling man is not what he does, but what he doesn't. He doesn't speak, he doesn't run. He doesn't attack. He only smiles, And sometimes that's enough to keep you awake at night. So the next time you walk alone at 2 a.m., ask yourself one question. Would you know what to do if someone smiled at you and didn't stop?